Welcome to Elected, a podcast for women and our active accomplices in and around politics. I'm Sarah Eldridge-Namanara, and today with me is Sarah Hoffman, MLA and Alberta NDP leadership candidate, running to replace Rachel Notley. And I guess in my mind, you're just all running to be the next premier of Alberta.
I am.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely running to be premier.
Of course you are. And I want that for all of you. So this is another live episode of the podcast. So we're recording in front of real life humans. And someone actually asked me, they were like, is the Q&A recorded too? I haven't been, just because the microphone doesn't pick it up.
Yeah.
So that part doesn't make it into the episode, but our conversation obviously does.
Sounds great.
So tell me, why are you running?
Yeah. I just want to start by thanking you for having me into your space, and also recognizing all of the First Nations who are the signatories to Treaty 6 and 7 and 8. And we're here on the traditional territory of Treaty 7 today in downtown Calgary. Well, in Inglewood.
Yes.
Calgary's Inglewood. I live in Edmonton's Inglewood.
Oh, do you?
I do.
What is Edmonton's Inglewood?
Also very awesome. Do you know 124th Street? It has like a lot of art galleries and nice little shops, great restaurants. And
no, I don't spend a lot of time.
Well, next time you decide to spend some time in Edmonton, I'll take you for a tour of 124th. And we'd love to have a satellite shop for Madam Premier on 124th Street.
A pop-up would be possible.
Yeah.
Not a full satellite.
We can talk pop-up logistics. Yeah.
Okay.
Amazing. I got into politics for the same reasons I got into education. I trained to be a teacher because I saw what my parents did and the difference they made in the lives of children and families in our community. Public education is the foundation of a strong society. And I saw that micro change that they made with individual students, individual families. And I wanted to do that too. And then I decided I wanted to actually do macro change. I wanted to have a chance to make the working and learning conditions for kids better, make healthcare better, live the values that I grew up with as, small town Alberta. I grew up in Kinuso, a village with 200 people.
I don't know where that is.
Yeah. So about 6 hours north of here. It's between Slave Lake and High Prairie.
Okay.
Yeah. So Lesser Slave Lake is the biggest lake in Alberta that's entirely within the province. And we're a few minutes off the shore of that.
I've lived here for, 12. Let me do basic math. 11 years, and I haven't ventured out very much.
If you're ready to take your kids camping, it is the best lake because it's so big and quite deep.
I will tell my husband.
Rarely get algae.
He's in charge of the camping.
Yeah, and swimming in the lake is safe.
Are there eels?
I've never seen an eel in that lake, and I spent a lot of time in it.
You can tell where
there's fish in the lake.
I don't want to touch fish. Anyways, that's not what this podcast is about.
So I grew up in this small town.
Yes.
And
there we go.
And the values of that town are the values that brought me to the NDP.
Yes.
The values of helping your neighbor out, making sure that we all get what we need to reach our full potential.
Yeah.
And I'm running for leader because I want to do that on a bigger scale.
Yeah.
I want to have an opportunity to make lives better. And my 3 key priority areas are healthcare, climate change, and housing.
Okay.
And I think we need to be unapologetically NDP and solving the crises that we're facing in those 3 areas.
So what differentiates you between your fellow candidates? Like why should people rank you number 1 on their ballot?
Yeah. Thank you for asking a straight up question. So I've won 5 elections in a row. I first ran for the school board in 2010 because there were people closing schools in mature neighborhoods all around Edmonton on the school board, and nobody was standing up for those kids, or at least not enough people were standing up for those kids. And, I'm fat, I'm sassy, and I have a hard time pretending to be somebody I'm not. So making the decision to move from being a staffer and being a volunteer to putting myself out there was a little bit risky. And I was running against an incumbent trustee who had a high profile, being a principal and assistant superintendent. But it was too important to me that we actually fight back and try to do great things for kids and for families.
Yeah.
So I ran, and by being true to my values and working my ass off, we won with 70% of the vote.
Really?
Yes, we did.
Wow.
That was my first win. I ran for school board again and won again. And then I ran provincially against an incumbent conservative cabinet minister, Heather Klimchuk, and I won again. And I've won 2 more times. So
you're a winner.
I'm a winner. And I'm true to my values. And people aren't going to see some sort of repackaged version of leaders we've had in the past. They're going to get me and an authentic Sarah Hoffman leader who can be a winner and who understands rural Alberta. I grew up in this village of 200.
Right.
I'm really proud of the work I did with Calgary to build the Calgary Cancer Center. And of course, I represent an Edmonton riding.
So on the rural front, obviously that's like a tricky spot given the last election for the NDP in Alberta. And you will need to win in rural Alberta to win in 2027.
Yes.
So what would you do in 2027 that the party didn't do in the last election to win seats?
Show up. We showed up for Calgary big time.
Yeah,
and
we really did.
We did. And we proved that when you show up, you win. We won the popular vote. We won the majority of the seats.
Yeah.
I buddied with Bev Kananaskis as the riding that I wanted to.
And that was a big win for the NDP.
Heck yes, it was, because we showed up. I was on the phones. Volunteers there were on the phones, on the doorsteps. Anytime I was down in this part of the province, I'd head over there to go door knock a poll with them.
Yeah.
And we've had 4 candidates contest the nomination. We ended up with Sarah Hoffman, who's a fantastic MLA, and she works her tail off. And we're going to win that again by even bigger margin in the next election because we're going to keep showing up for Bev Kananaskis. And we can do that for other ridings right across the province. It's not okay with me that Kinuso has a UCP MLA, so we need to change that.
Yeah. So what specifically, so showing up, but in terms of the messaging that you like, what's the message to rural Alberta that hasn't connected in the past with the NDP vote?
Well, and I think messaging is one thing, and air war is one thing, but actually being able to connect on people's doorsteps, at their community hall, in the church basement, at the curling rink. Like that's what I mean by showing up, so that you get a chance to deliver your message yourself. You're not trying to trust other people to broadcast that.
Right.
And you inspire your local volunteers. But my message is NDP values are rural values.
Yeah.
When your neighbor needs help getting to a doctor, we all step up and we help each other out. When you need help getting your crop off the field, we step up and we help each other out. And when you're worried about drought, when you're worried about smoke, only the NDP, only a Sarah Hoffman government is going to help address those issues in a meaningful way to make sure that your economic sustainability as a farmer or somebody who works even in oil and gas or in forestry, like we need to act on climate change, and only the NDP is going to do that.
Yeah. How do you tie that to an economic message?
There are so many jobs to be had. I launched my climate policy this week, and one of the big pillars within it is around the Youth Climate Corps. And this is something that I'm modeling off work that's happening in other jurisdictions like the United States. They're trying to empower youth to get jobs and helping to fight climate change, fire smarting and water smarting municipalities, making sure that we immediately on day one of a Sarah Hoffman government, we're going to get rid of the ban on wind and solar. We're going to make sure that there are jobs in those areas, and we're going to help employ young people through great paying union jobs to do that work with us. So there are tons of jobs to be had on acting on climate change in a meaningful way.
Right.
And also I will say that my housing pillar, building affordable housing and keeping it affordable, that is also an excellent way to create a ton of jobs, and making sure that we properly fund public services, including healthcare. All of those things are good for the economy when people don't have to worry about how they're going to pay their mortgage, and they can focus on doing their work to their fullest capacity rather than taking a second or a third job. We're going to get better productivity if we have more investment in things like social housing.
So you answered part of what one question that I wanted to ask, which is, what are you going to do on day one?
Yeah.
What else would you do?
Oh, I'm going to have like 100-day plan for sure, because when I was the chair of the Edmonton Public School Board, that was a big part of it for me. Is I wanted to be able to celebrate our milestone accomplishments with my colleagues. And that's also one of the ways you build consensus around a team that you want voting with and for you on things that you're doing as you go. When I was first elected to the public school board, there were 5 of us who ran on this keeping schools open message out of 9, but most of the votes were either 7-2 or 9-0, like, because we were able to pull people in and have them be part of the team. So big for me are health, climate, and housing, making sure that healthcare, we get back to having evidence-based decision-making, that we have somebody with a health background running the healthcare system. Like, this stuff shouldn't be big campaign promises. That's what I did before, but it's important that we actually say it out loud.
Yeah.
Because healthcare isn't just about how they're doing on their budget. It's how you're doing in terms of achieving your goals of saving lives.
Well, patient care.
Patients care. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I'm excited on the health piece is that when I was the health minister, every major municipality in Alberta, you could get a family doctor. We had labor peace. We had lots of great relationships because I spent those 4 years building those relationships. So if I'm the premier, we'll be able to, I think, get back to a situation of trust, and then we can work on problem solving and recruiting and retaining folks in a really meaningful way. So I will probably spend a lot of day one on the phone reaching out to the friends that can help us solve these problems, because the premier is one person. She shouldn't have all the answers, but she should have all the phone numbers of the people who are going to help get there.
Well, okay. Speaking of phone numbers, she does have the phone number of one person who is like on the top of my naughty list. David Parker.
Oh, the current premier. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm talking about the future premier.
I know. And that's the thing. I want our premier to have, other people's phone numbers.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't want our premier to have current premier or future premier to have, that's not who I want to be the go-to, right? In terms of like, hey, I'm thinking about making this policy. What do you think about it? Oh yeah, you love it. Great. Done. Right.
Yeah.
I don't want that in that direction of where that takes us.
Oh yeah. Don't worry. David Parker is not
going to have your number.
No. And like I will say, since you brought him up, I'm glad he's afraid of me, and he should be. Like, I am going to work my ass off to make sure that we win this next election, and that we're not going to apologize for being who we are.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, I do want, not in like a sinister, afraid kind of like, I'm going to come get you way, but I do want him to understand that, that there are a lot of people who think that he and his group are not representative of Alberta. And I can understand, because people sometimes are like, we shouldn't talk about him. Don't give him the attention. I also don't want people to think that he's not a problem, because sometimes when we don't talk about things, it minimizes it. Right. And he actually is a problem in my mind. And even thinking about it in terms of, the series of podcasts that I'm doing, and, it's free, open to anyone who can get on Eventbrite and get a ticket. And, there's 24 spaces. And like, I really want politics and politicians to be accessible to people.
Yes.
He has no problem filling large venues, right? With people who are aligned with his beliefs. I want that the same thing like going against him. I want, people who believe in an inclusive Alberta, who think that everyone, has value in our society, that public education and public healthcare are important. And I want you to sell out venues, right?
Yep.
I want you to be bringing out more people than he is.
Yep.
Because that is the biggest repudiation in my mind, also at the ballot box, of saying we reject what you're selling.
Yeah. So thank you for creating the space for us to invite folks here today.
Yeah.
And thank you to everyone who showed up. And it's so exciting to be able to be in a variety of different environments, connecting with folks about this leadership race. And absolutely, I will also say the day that we launched my video about the campaign, man, did people ever show up and have my back. And thank you for the role you played in that.
Wow.
And so many other Albertans for saying, absolutely, women belong in politics, and sassy women have an important role to play in shaping the future of our province. So.
100%. I think the world has to get used to the fact that women are showing up in whatever that looks like. And that,
and babies too.
And babies. And babies. Yeah. And, like to take a line from Taylor Swift, like the Brads, Chads, and Dads just need to get used to it. Right? Like, no, that's how we change things.
Yep.
So, I will always push back on that bullshit. So
thank you.
Yeah. So you're running against 5 people, although I have to say, I don't know if one of the people is actually running a campaign. But anyways, we'll leave that aside. Some of them are your colleagues.
Yes.
And you seem to all, be very supportive of each other, generally speaking.
Yeah.
There might come a time when something, the debates happen, like, how are you, and I asked this to Kathleen as well, around like terms of caucus management and coming together, assuming you win. What is that going to look like? What would the caucus management look like under you?
Well, and I want to start by saying 2 of my leadership opponents are women that I recruited to run for the NDP. Raki and Jody are 2 women that I sought out, had meetings with, and said there's a place for you in our party. And I'm really glad that they said yes when I asked them to run. I still want to be the leader, and they will have strong voices around the table in supporting strong, confident government. And one of the ways that I built consensus when I was chair of the school board, because that was probably my first sort of larger leadership role, is that I had one-on-ones with folks and I asked them what they wanted to accomplish during their term. And then I thought of ways that we could make sure we helped them achieve their goals and what that meant for the collective goal of the organization.
Right.
I am committed to being an open, accessible leader and to having a lot of fun and owning what my values are. And that's one of the reasons why I'm very open about the health, climate, housing pillars of this campaign.
Yeah.
And after it's done, if I get a mandate to run in the next election, I want all of our current MLAs and future candidates to think about what role they can play in helping us address the crises that we're facing in each of those pillars.
Right.
And also what's important to them as individuals who are hopefully all running again to make sure that they can feel excited about what they've accomplished during this term and what they want to accomplish during the next term. So for me, it's a lot about relationships and finding that common ground.
Yeah.
And that's what the team you're building and preparedness for the election. And I've been doing this in the past as one of the senior members of our caucus and as the deputy leader. But moving forward, I think I'll have an even bigger opportunity to engage with more people and to use the profile and the importance of the leader's office and the future premier to be able to do that. So, I'm going to keep building those strong relationships. And if Mr. Nenshi decides after I win that he wants to run as an NDP MLA, there will be an important role for him to play in our caucus too.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, he's going to be here, and I have a lot of questions for him in terms of what his participation would look like if he doesn't win, right?
Yeah.
Like, are you still on the team or, we'll see.
Yeah.
In terms of, the last election and the lend me your vote kind of initiative, I voted NDP for the first time in my life.
Thank you.
In the last election. And I would say that, I liked that actually, that kind of extension. And I say that not because I haven't wanted to possibly vote NDP in the past. It was that I lived in a riding where we had a Greg Clark as an MLA.
Yeah.
And now I live in a different riding and Lizette Tejada is my MLA.
Yes, she is.
I went out door knocking with her.
Thank you.
And I think she's an exceptional community MLA.
Yes.
Which I wish more were. What did you think about the Lend Me Your Vote campaign?
That's always how I've campaigned because each election is about earning trust for that point in time. And I don't want people to think that if they decide to vote for us, they need to for the next 44 years.
Okay.
I think parties that act that way are arrogant and entitled. And that is not who the hardworking people that I align myself with in the NDP are. I grew up in rural Alberta, and where a lot of people drove the same vehicle that their dad drove because their grandpa drove.
Right.
And
you're a Ford. If you drove a Ford, you're a Ford person.
Yeah, but maybe you want to test drive a Chevy or a Honda, and maybe you'll think that that's also
or a Tesla.
Or a Tesla.
Actually, I'm going. I want people to buy Rivian because of
Elon.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think saying try it. Like, give us a shot, see if this is a fit for you. If it is, I hope you'll consider it again next time. But every vote is about earning trust at that point in time.
Yeah.
And guess what? I've been able to consistently get somewhere around 70% of the vote with that attitude. So just because people lent me their vote the first time didn't mean that they didn't continue to do that. And honestly, a lot of new people have come on board, and sometimes you'll lose a few people. But I think that anyone who's applying for a contract, which is what running for offices should do so from a place of I'm working really hard to earn your trust at this point in time. Lend it to me and then recalibrate again in 4 years and see if I've got your back. And if I do, then I hope you'll do it again.
Well, and I was having a conversation with someone here before the podcast started around like that kind of exchange, right? And what I try to share consistently is that, like, if you come and knock on my door and you're asking me for my vote, I am the one with the power in that relationship. And so what I demand of that person asking me for my vote, I don't see the politician as the most powerful person in that equation.
Right.
Because you need my vote. Yeah. Right. So tell me how you're going to work for it.
I treat every door as a job interview.
Right.
I am there to I'm applying for a job, and I've got 40,000 bosses when I'm running provincially in a riding. Now I'm going to have many millions of bosses should I become the leader and the next premier. And that's the job that I'm out interviewing for today. So absolutely, I'm showing up to talk about what my values are, their values, and see if we're a good fit for each other.
So, like, generally speaking, the media attention seems to be placing you on the part of the political spectrum that's like more left leaning.
Right.
And what story do you tell to people who might be wary of thinking of you as being just like, you know, like too far to the left?
Well, if they think that everyone having a family doctor is too far to the left, then okay. I think that if a child tried to go to school and we said there's no room for you, sorry, we just don't have enough teachers, and we sent them home, that would be unacceptable. And I feel the same way about healthcare. Everyone should have access to great primary care and an opportunity to have their healthcare needs met. And I've always sort of probably considered myself left of center, but definitely not far left of center. I think a lot of people have moved the political spectrum further to the right over the last
it seems
few
like
years.
It's getting more polarized.
Yeah.
Right.
And I believe that my values are the right values. They're correct. They're the ones of making sure that we have each other's backs, that we have a clean air for our children to breathe, for your patrons to breathe when they come shop here on a hot summer's day. I want your business to be busy and thriving, and for people to be walking the streets of Calgary confidently. And I want to make sure that we have housing, and that anyone who's living rough has a dignified place to sleep at night, and that anyone who wants to move out of their parents' basement has a path to be able to do that too.
Yeah, I don't want 30-year-olds living in their parents' basements.
I don't either.
Them, I don't think it's good for society.
Yeah.
We need people to have, a dignified lifestyle.
Yeah.
Right.
So if building housing that they can afford to move into is considered too left, then I guess I'll own that space.
Well, and I mean, the direction that the provincial government is going in under Danielle Smith and the UCP, in terms of introducing political parties at the municipal level, right? It's just all about like dividing people into you're on my team or you're not.
Yeah.
I don't think that's beneficial to society in general. I wish there were actually more independent MLAs who would maybe vote differently depending on like who's bringing forward what. But how do you how would you undo some of the things that Danielle Smith and her UCP government have done in the short time that they've been elected?
Well, Jason Kenney modeled how to do a summer of repeal. And that definitely, there are so many areas in terms of labor rights, in terms of children's rights, in terms of human rights, in terms of the economic stability for those who are investing in renewables. There are a lot of bills that we're going to need to repeal in those first 100 days. And we will. I am not afraid of hard work, and anyone who runs under my banner is not going to be afraid of hard work either. So we will get the province back on a better path, and then we'll develop a budget that can invest in the areas that are important to all of us.
How would you, so let's say it's 2027, you've won in 2024. You're going into a general election. Let's say you win.
Yes.
Let's say also that there's a Pierre Poilievre prime minister.
Sure.
What would your relationship be like with the federal government? And I say that because I'm currently very displeased with the one that our provincial government has. How would it look different? Or would it be the same, but just with different players?
So when I became the health minister under Rachel Notley, Stephen Harper was the prime minister. And then about 6 months later, Justin Trudeau was the prime minister. And I had to negotiate with both of those health ministers under those governments around the health transfer agreements because they were up for update. And I sat down and gathered evidence and worked with other allies. There was only one other NDP minister of health at that time, but I found others who wanted to accomplish some of the same things we did. And we put forward a proposal that we got general consensus from the other health ministers and from the federal government that ended up with Alberta getting $1 billion more for healthcare. So I can work with whoever we're given. I will work with whoever we're given. I hope that they want to achieve good outcomes for the people that we serve collectively.
Yeah.
Everyone always says there's only one taxpayer, but sure, do they like to treat them like a political pawn when it comes to things like pensions? Like what's happening right now with the CPP is what the government is doing is unconscionable. They have no business to be threatening the financial security of those with disabilities who are accessing CPPD, those who are surviving on death benefits, and those who have paid into this and are now in their golden years drawing on their insurance, their income insurance for their financial savings. And to be playing with that and causing so much chaos and strife, I think is really disrespectful. So I commit to being a grown-up It doesn't mean I'm going to be a pushover. I'm
Yeah.
going to lean in and I'm going to fight. And I've had many friends in labor to teach me how to do that at a table in a respectful way, but to get good outcomes for the working people of this province.
This is the first time we've met. And now, I mean, from our interactions online, but now meeting you in person, one thing you strike me as is not a pushover.
Correct.
Which I like. And I mean, to say the same actually of Kathleen and Racky, like none of you are, right? Like you're all very strong. And I love that.
Thank you.
I really love that. And, I think that that's what politics needs is like strong, competitive people. And
a sassy Madam Premier.
Well, yeah. And a sassy Madam Premier. Like, honestly, I mean, I like it really matters to me. I wasn't born in Alberta. Didn't grow up here, but I've had my children here.
Yeah.
My husband works in oil and gas.
Yeah.
Like this province is really important to me. And I want other people to think about, not just how what we have and what we do here benefits us in the present, but also, thinking about, how we present ourselves on the world stage, on the Canadian stage, like how we attract investment, how we attract families, no matter what they look like. That really matters to me because even, my husband is an immigrant. And honestly, we don't see many families that look like ours.
Right.
And I want that. And we're going to Vancouver. We're going back to BC next week. And, one of the things that I love about being there is that we do see more families that look like us.
Yeah.
And I want that here, right? I don't want my kids to feel like we're, like my children are special.
Yes.
But I also want them to feel like that they understand like that our family is actually what Canada is.
Yes. Yeah, there's some great research out of the OC of people drawing a picture of what they think the typical Albertan looks like.
Yeah.
And many people, even though we are becoming more diverse, and many people will draw a male cowboy, right?
Yes.
But like that is not the dominant Alberta narrative anymore.
Yeah.
Right? Like we are so much more diverse and so much more inclusive and welcoming. And there are so many more newcomers here. Than there definitely were when I grew up in the 80s. So I want your kids to see themselves in any role they want to play in our society, in our province, and to have a great future here.
Well, I'll tell you this. Yesterday, this little girl came in with her family and she was all bundled up in her snowsuit, but you could see this like thing sticking out of her snowsuit. And I was like, is that a stethoscope? She just turned 3.
Oh.
And her parents said, or actually her grandpa said that she had just started watching Doc McStuffins and that she is now inspired to be like a doctor.
Excellent.
And, I was like so moved by that because I want more little girls to grow up with the biggest dreams.
Yeah. And then I want them to want to stay in Alberta.
Yes.
I don't want them to become doctors and then go to another province.
Yeah. Right? Like we need to keep that homegrown talent.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I don't know how. So if anyone is interested in learning more about your campaign,
yes.
How do they do that?
Please visit sarahhoffman.ca. I'm all over all the socials too, but if you go to my website, sarahhoffman.ca, you get to see my launch video that we've talked about. It's a minute and 45 seconds. You can learn more. The climate policy is there fully. And then the other 2 big pillars, health and housing, are to come in the weeks ahead. So you can learn so much more about me there. We'd love to have you attend an event or come and volunteer.
Yeah.
This is a really exciting campaign. We're doing great things and we're having a lot of fun doing them.
It's nice to be optimistic about something. And I feel optimism about this race.
Yeah.
Yeah. And where do you want people to rank you on the ballot?
Number 1. That's it. If they're thinking about somebody else for number 1, I hope that they'll consider making me their number 2. Yeah. But, obviously we're going to have a variety of people. At this point, there's 6 of us on the ballot.
Yeah.
We'll see where it lands.
Do you think someone will drop off?
Who knows? I never want to think there will be 6 or fewer people on the ballot.
6 or fewer. There won't be 6 or more.
There will not be more. Yeah. The deadline for putting your name into the race is over. So I'd love to be near the top of everyone's ballot, if not on the top. I think that we can show people that we are New Democrats. We don't apologize for that. And that we need NDP values to solve some of these biggest issues that we're facing where the market hasn't been able to. The market is great in a number of other areas, but health, climate, and housing, we need to be unapologetically NDP and address these crises before it's too late.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining me. I hope you enjoyed the conversation.
It was lovely.
And April 22nd is the membership deadline.
Yeah.
June 22nd is the day of the results.
Exactly.
And it's happening here in Calgary.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I have to say, I do like the attention on Calgary. I
Good.
think it's great. Just because it's easier for me.
Yeah.
And anyone who lives here.
People should swing by Madam Premier as well before or after to.
Well, I would
spend some
actually,
time
I'm planning on buying a membership.
Excellent.
So, I mean, I don't know how I'm going to vote yet because I haven't met everybody.
Yeah.
But I am planning on buying a membership.
I'm thrilled that you are, and I hope I rank near the top of your ballot, Sarah. This has just been such a great venue. Thank you for setting this up and making it so easy for us to gather here. And thank you to everyone who came. I look forward to chatting a little bit more after we're done.
Yeah.
Yes.